master thesis. My name is Ibrahim, and I'm presenting my master thesis today. So, the topic I'm presenting is IT model for guiding e-grocers to adopt profitability solution. So, this project is actually sponsored by the European Union and through the Erasmus and EPIC project. In consolidation with SSI Schiffer, which is a German-based company, and it's a multinational company. So there are two collaborating universities, which is University of Stavanger in Norway and the Riga Technical University. So I was supervised by e-grocer experts and a professor in University of Stavanger. His name over there, and Professor Kirikova, and me. So the problem statement is about e-grocery. E-grocers are individuals that allow people to actually order grocery online and they deliver it to them. So they want to achieve these factors, these qualities that are here: timely delivery, cost reduction, and so on. So there are so many automation and IT solutions that are existing within this industry. However, there is evidences of loss by most of these e-grocers. So this moves us to the objective and goal of the study. The goal of the study is to investigate the reason why these people are financially losing and to propose an IT solution. So I had to divide it into 5 major objectives. The first one is actually to explain what e-grocery is and the sub-processes. After getting this one, we identify the existing solutions, and the solution is actually based on other solution and IT solution, but I focus more on the IT solutions. Then we move to the identification of the causes of losses. Based on the identification of causes of losses, we can actually model an as-is situation of the problem. Then the as-is model will be transformed into a to-be model, which is subsequently used to propose an IT-oriented solution. So this is my research methodology that I used to achieve the thesis. So I met with the we had an Erasmus meeting, and I gathered necessary problems from the sponsors. I checked what literature is saying about this problem. Then I discussed with the owners of the project. I discussed with my supervisor. She gave a lot of advices and support. Then I actually checked through journals for possible solution and my idea. So I came up with a solution. Based on this solution, I delivered it to the owners of the project. They actually added some input. I took input from my supervisor. I moderated it. Then I had the final problem. Then I came for the pre-defense. I got some input as well. I improved it. Then I actually got the final thesis, the solution in the thesis. Then the first objective of the thesis, e-grocery sub-processes. The first thing they actually do is to actually receive supply from suppliers. They manage the stock. They do order administration. It has to do with how order is being received and it's being administered from customers. Then they actually pick the orders. The order is being picked by individuals in the warehouses or automation, and then they finally deliver it to customers. So these are in-house activities and these are external activities. But one major important thing is the management of finance and information along this supply chain. So this leads us to the cost, the next objective. What is the cost? Why are they losing? So I checked literatures, I identified some problems in works of previous researchers, and I actually met with the sponsors of the project. I gathered some information, some problems. So I actually came to a common problem from both sides. So we proposed a solution based on the Erasmus project, and this solution was also transferred into this master thesis to solve both problems on both sides. Then the next thing is the most problematic area. The most problematic area is the order picking section, because this is an automated section which is actually linked to a manual section. So there's a lot that in most cases we discover that there's sub-optimization, high performance pickers and low performance pickers. So there's a slack in this side when they're trying to link automated process to manual process. So we can actually predict the events in this place, but because of the we cannot predict the performance in this place, which is also affecting the final delivery. So activities that can be predicted, but the other side it's difficult to predict it. So I actually did a business process model of the order administration. The objective was actually to get the full business process model, but because there is a slack here, I identified this place as a problem area. So we have to find a solution to actually allow us to get an extensive business process model. So this is actually the to-be. This is actually the as-is layout for warehouses of e-grocers. So in the thesis, I proposed this one, but I didn't lay much emphasis on it because this is left to engineering students to actually see how it works. But what I propose is that if we have 3 individual orders here, we need 3 people to actually go around to pick, or we need 3 people to go around to pick, or maybe 1 person go at individual times. But if we use this solution, the object can actually drop on this conveyor and it goes here. So this makes it faster, and we can actually get a more foundation to actually represent how information flows. Then I was able to actually, after getting this, I was able to model the whole process of e-grocers. So this is the order administration, this is the order picking, and this is the delivery. So this side has been breached. So this side has been breached, apologies. So we have an automated process or option of a manual picking process. So after that, what is the importance of these models that are actually drawn? So the importance of drawing the business process model of the whole process is because it gives us, it actually helps us to display information flow. It gives a pictorial identification of problematic areas, as I explained initially, amalgamation of the e-grocery sub-processes, and it gives a template for developers, and finally, it allows us to identify the key relevant area. So having gotten this information, so we had to find a solution to their problem. So what is the solution to the problem? I did not just bring this out for my intuition. I actually met with the sponsors, and I gathered some information which led me to the solution. So the first one, are they losing financially? Yes. What is the cost of the financial loss? They listed it. I already explained some of them before, and it's in the master thesis. Then is it true that they have poor managerial decision? There's evidence of that. Then to store, will it be necessary to actually store advices in their repositories? He said yes. And finally, okay, do they have IT support? Some have and some do not have. And finally, is e-grocers practicable by all e-grocers? The answer is no. So based on this, I actually use this key area to actually find the solution. So what is the solution that we can actually use to support managerial decisions? So based on the knowledge I actually got from how to use a business intelligence tool. So this is what a business intelligence looks like. The reference where I got this image is actually here. You click on this side. So, but the objective of me, the researcher, is not to develop a BI tool. It's just to develop some displayable information which corresponding decision can actually be reflected from those information. So based on this, I actually proposed this template of methodology that should be followed by subsequent researchers if they want to develop this solution, if they want to find a solution. So what is the case? E-grocers, are they losing or not? Yes. If it is yes, we follow this trend. We have to get solutions for them. If they are not losing, then there's something they are doing that is good. We have to study it and finally use it to solve the problem here. So after that, is it manual or automated? We watch about that one. Then do they have a decision support system? If they don't have, we administer it to them. If they have, we study it up to the extent that it gets to the point where we actually find the solution to all of them. Then after this template, where a BI tool actually requires a database or a repository to actually extract data which will be transformed into information. So where are we going to get this information from? I went further to actually ask some questions from the e-grocery expert that I work with in the project, and they stated that these are the information that they want to work along with, the ones that they want to advise managers over. So these are the information, and these are the possible tables in the database where this data can be extracted to get this information. So I also modeled, I showed a pictorial diagram of some of the classes that the tables should be gotten from in the database and the relationship. And this is the model one of the models that I actually proposed that can actually guide e-grocers in taking the right decision. One thing I want to actually state at first is that the expert that I actually worked with, he had some managerial advices which he said I shouldn't publish in this work because it is intellectual property. So I represented those areas with possibly X, Y, Z or Z. Anything can actually be put there. So how it works is this. I visited, I used information about e-grocers in the UK because when I did statistics to get performance in Europe, UK is the highest in terms of ranking of e-grocers. So I picked Ocado because Ocado, as at the time of the research, was the only pure play e-grocer in the UK. So Ocado actually received about 270,000 orders per week. So I actually used a case study so that I wouldn't be assuming figures from my brain. So they receive, when I divided it into order per day, they receive about 1,440 orders in a day. So I took half of it, which is about 800, and I was like, anybody who wants to, so I actually categorized it in this in that format. So the decision intent is that if an e-grocer is receiving less than 800 order an hour, a specific advice should be given to them. It is in the thesis. It's actually in the thesis. So, but if they get within this range, they should follow this advice here, so that they wouldn't. So by this, they can actually identify if they are going to lose for the ones that are actually going to the industry. If they are going to lose, what kind of system they should use. Either they should use automation or manual. All those are there. Restrictive e-grocery is about using automation or manual, or some sort of automation or some sort of manual picking system. If it's falls between these places, the same thing applies. But when they get over 1,440 orders per hour, so let's imagine a company is getting 1,440 orders per hour. If human beings are actually picking it, based on the subjectivity of the picking capacity of human beings, there's a high chance that they have to employ more people, and the more people they employ, the more they pay, the more salary they pay, so they're actually going to be losing. So this is also the same thing. It's also just explaining another variable. So this is a template that I produced, that I actually submitted to the project sponsors, so that they can actually follow this template to solve whatever problem they want to do. So who are the beneficiaries of my solution? Number one, SSI Shefa, which is the company that actually sponsored this project. Another one is automation manufacturer. SSI Shefa is actually an automation. They actually manufacture automation, warehouse automation devices. Then consultants, and the e-grocers, and finally future researchers. And my conclusion is actually divided into two phases. The findings from the thesis in general, from the researchers, from the sponsors, and the benefits of this master thesis. So the first one is that automation is not always applicable to all e-grocers. In the sense that if you look at this analysis, the figures that I actually use are very, very big. But I personally visited an e-grocer in Spain, which is Rubio, and I see that to a significant extent, they're actually doing well, though they hid some information for me. So what they actually do is that they don't have a website, they don't have anything, and they're doing e-grocery, but it's actually restrictive. Customers have to subscribe, they only do delivery in a week, and among others. So it's not, automation is not always applicable to all e-grocers in that context. Then IT solution is not always the problem. Because when we actually started the problem as first, one of the hypotheses, one of the guesses that was actually given by the owners of the project is that maybe because there's no IT solution, that's why they're losing. But from my findings, I realized that from the findings of the in the literature I made, IT is not always the problem. But if there's an IT solution, let's take the case of Ocado. They spent about £210 million in their distribution center in Andover, UK. So if they are spending about £210 million to actually build a distribution center alone, and the overhead cost is not yet added to it, and other expenses, let's imagine a company like Remy that is actually buying such an automation device, and they don't have a lot of orders to actually complement it. They have to charge customer a lot. So in automation, it is not always a problem, but the ability to actually charge customers sufficient amount to actually cover the cost of automation. Then the next one is automation is a precondition to facilitate the new solution that I have actually proposed in this thesis. Because when I reviewed the work of Brown 2012, he actually stated that if you want to expand your e-grocery into automated, or if you want to expand, if grocers want to expand into e-groceries, they have to also expand their back end. So automation, the expansion I actually brought is the expansion of the back end. They should change it from manual if the order is very much to automated picking system. So the benefit of this system, the benefit of this master thesis, it provides a decision support to e-grocers for maintaining loss, for mitigating loss. So with this, they can actually identify potential loss in the future. They can extrapolate the trend from the data they have, and determine if they are going to lose or not, and provide and they have decisions in the repositories. The models to consider for developing BI2 for e-grocers. So developers can subsequently use this model in actually building the applications for e-grocers. Then finally, it gives an academic contribution to future researchers. So future researchers can actually build upon this work and make other extensible contributions to academia. So the conclusive part of this conclusion is that I talked about the limitation of the studies and recommendation for future researchers. The first limitation is that there are limitations to data gotten from the sponsor. The sponsors actually limited the kind of data that they actually provided to us. So that was the reason why I used Ocado in some case. I got statistics about Ocado. They were actually very, very careful with the kind of information they actually provide about their customers. And the second one is managerial decisions are not limited to the ones that are actually mentioned in this thesis. Like I said before, the e-grocery expert that I work with, he has other managerial advices, suggestions that we can actually put in this master thesis, but he said he doesn't want me to actually publish it. So this is actually in line with the GDPR that actually said that I shouldn't, it wouldn't be right for me to actually post something against someone's wish. Then our other subject area should be deep. One major important factor is that this thesis is actually a very, very complex area that involves so many fields like accounting, financial management, logistics, marketing, supply chain, among others. But I concentrated more on the IT part. And subsequent researchers to focus more. If they want to get a more representative solution, they have to focus more on this area so that they can actually tap knowledge from all the areas. So, I don't know if I can actually answer. This is in line with one of the comments I got from the reviewer. We actually have, in the project, we actually have 3 students who are meant to actually do it, but unfortunately, one of them is a marketing student and I think the other one financial student, but unfortunately the 2 of them were not able to contribute, they backed out. So most of the knowledge is from me and the e-grocery expert and the sponsor. That was the reason why the financial analysis is not really substantial. But to a significant extent, I tried my possible best to represent it as best as I could. So the references, I got references from Springer, I got from SSI Sheffield, which is the sponsor of the project. I visited a small e-grocery in Spain to actually get information. And the question is, you might ask, why didn't I use Riga? When I checked the statistics of e-grocers, Latvia is not among the companies that are actually in the list. So actually, it's in the appendices of my thesis. I looked at the list of countries that are actually practicing e-grocery. And it was also based on a convenience sampling technique, because I visited Spain during that period and I just used it as an advantage. Then other relevant journals, I checked them, and the website of e-grocers for statistical facts. And the modeling tools that I actually used, I used Camunda, which was recommended by my thesis supervisor, who was very helpful, Professor Kirikova. And I also noticed the benefit of this is that it actually makes modelers to follow the correct syntax. So if I don't follow this syntax, I wouldn't be able to generate the model. So this actually gives some level of confidence, assurance that the image I actually designed is correct to a significant extent. Maybe probably the margin of error of about maybe 5%, less than 5%. Then I use Yedge as well. Yedge, I use it based on the popularity. I checked online and I look at the popularity of modelers, and I use Yedge based on that. But the beautiful thing about Yedge is that it has so many options of notations like UML, class diagram, among other notations. I did not use sources which are later than 2000, and they are for supply chain, and the one for 2010 for e-grocery activities. And finally, thank you very much.
Okay.
But there's one last thing after this one. I actually tried to implement this through Excel using macro and Visual Basic to just practice what the decision model is going to work like. So the order, this is the we have 24 hours in a day, so this is the average order per day. So if the companies are actually getting order within a specific period, these are the quantity. I don't know if it is possible. I can just practice open it up. Okay, if it's then I took a picture. So this is how it's actually going to work. So there are so many other ones, but this is just a sample of what the thing is going to work like. So thank you.